I've had some experience and some insights with resting as aware of being aware of awareness as a practice. I'm asking from a different looking at a different facet of this. What is the mechanism of being aware of awareness? What's happening there? Um, what seems to be happening for me when I fall into it um, is that um, there's a shift from being absorbed in the objects of awareness, whatever that might have been, whatever that is at the moment, back into something or some other stance or some other position. Um, the pull of the objects, the pull, the absorptive capacity of the 10,000 things, the objects, the thought, the resonances, that seems to come to a grinding halt very quickly,
Yeah.
like instantly.
Yes.
And then I'm not used to that. So
Yeah.
it doesn't last, doesn't apparently last. And then during my day, I'm wondering, aware of awareness, what even is that? How do I get back into that? How do I
Right.
find it again?
Right. Yeah, it's sort of the opposites, all right? It's when um, th- when when attention is absorbed in awareness, um, the rest seems to be some kind of an illusion. It's like not real. When attention is absorbed in objects, then the other seems unreal, right? So then consciousness seems unreal. It's like an illusion. Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the question there? I know there's more. I just
Like I said,
happy for you to direct it.
um, well, I guess the question is the yearning to be open to it more.
Well, you know, again, it's all happening by itself, and you can't yearn any sooner than the rest of us do. In other, it's all or than the goddess wants, but even that sounds too capricious. It's more like it's all connected, and therefore it's all moving together at its own pace. Um, so you know that's one thing to say. So you can trust the process or your own process. And simultaneous with that is part of what arises in that process is a yearning to get on with it, which is equally part of that process. So it's not something you can just wish away either. As speaking with Shri about, yeah, it's better when I put my attention here than there, because that urge is there. I mean, that's part of the process. It's not something that to be renounced either. So yeah, placing attention in the position of consciousness, which is kind of what self inquiry is, or such practices, is more of an educational thing, but it's a non-conceptual education. It's like a retraining of attention. You could say it's educating attention so that it is consciously in the position that it's in when it's in deep sleep, unconsciously. To consciously be in the context or to be the context for the 10,000 things, for everything that arises, the more attention is, you say, resting or absorbed in the context of everything that's arising, or in the space in which all of the sense fields are arising, in which the visual field is arising, and the auditory field is arising, or the kinesthetic feelings that are arising. They're all arising in, for want of a better word, because all of these, whenever we talk about this, we have to use metaphoric language that comes from the 10,000 things, that comes from this, to point. So we use the word space, right? For want of a better word. That's a great word, actually, for it. So the space in which all of the sense fields are arising and the objects of the sense fields, right? So everything that you see and the objects that are seen. Beyond that, that space that's beyond the visual field. If you sit quietly and you listen to all the sounds and you let all the sounds in, every little high frequency noise that your ears can pick up, so that you're listening to the entire field of sound, all of the field of sound, then you become aware of the silence in which that sound is. And it seems to be an object. Attention can be placed in the field and beyond the field, but you're not aware of it as a thing. But it seems to be, like, you could say, spatially beyond the senses, or beyond the sense fields and what arises in them. When attention is there long enough, it realizes that space is there regardless of whether attention is on it or not. Also, if attention,
What realization?
well, whatever realizes anything.
Right.
Okay, whatever realizes everything and anything. Okay. Attention gets used to hanging out there, and see, and that's a metaphor. Realizing, it's all metaphors. That's why I wasn't going to jump into and really describe it, because it's not really true ultimately. Even realization and awakening is not ultimately true in any permanent sense of doing anything. This is what the realization of the Buddha really is, that he was always awake at some level. In other words, that it was always true, that Buddha nature is eternal, that Atman is eternal, that Brahman is eternal, and you are that. So it's not as though the realization made you Brahman, or the realization changed anything, or what was realized was a thing. I mean, it gets very ineffable, but because it isn't the same as phenomenal language. But in terms of practice, you can talk about what to do. In terms of conclusions and what's what, really can't. That's what, there's a saying in Tibetan Buddhism about such things. Even the Buddha's mouth is dumb. Like, even he doesn't speak about it. He can't say. But the attention resting in the space in which everything is arising is itself a kind of getting used to. What gets used to? All right, we could talk this way. You could say all the elements of the body-mind get used to it. Or you could say the mind gets used to it. You could say attention gets used to it. But it's really everything, the whole thing, gets used to it. And what is it used to? Its own nature. What it actually is. The sensation of the body is in that, without the thoughts of the body. So you can't even say the body then, but what you thought of as the body, all the sensations of it, all of it. Right? So Ramana Maharshi liked to tell people that they're not the body for this reason. So they begin to put attention on that. And then he said, I only tell people that they're not the body because they're attached to an idea of a body and a particular thing and a particular feeling sense and all of that. Once they're not attached to any of that because they've brought their attention to nowhere in particular or everywhere at once or the context of everything, then of course you're the body and you're the mind and you're all sensations and you're everything that arises in consciousness. You're everything that arises in the space. But not in the way that you thought before, not in the way that what you thought the body was or whatever. I mean, you're that too, but you see through all of that. All of those are experiences, that are the result of certain concepts. But once all of that starts to be teased apart, then you are anything you can experience, you are that. Anything that you can imagine, you are that. Of course, you suspect anything that you can imagine, anything that's imagined. All imagination is made of nothing but you. All the sense fields are made of nothing but you. But you're not reduced to particular versions of them. That's what samsara is, getting reduced to a particular version of it. But you're none of it, ultimately. So, yeah. Does that make sense? Not, or I don't know if that's not the right word. That's not the phrase to use, really. Is there more to say?
We've,
Perhaps that's the best way.
we've agreed to use certain phrases here.
Right.
No, it does. Sense. It's key piece that I'm missing, of placing attention on, being aware of the space in which things are happening, the silence, the background, the pervasive nothingness that all this is arising, within all which all this is arising. Yeah. I do request that you publish this and I can listen to it again. And I really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Okay. Somehow, I will. I will.
Thank you.
I've promised that before. I got to get to my. But yes, very good. You're so welcome, Lee.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I will say that clears. Okay, so when I started this process, whatever path, whatever, 30 plus years ago, in my beginning, I thought I was seeking enlightenment. And then the word became embodiment. And again, what does that mean? And I never, for one thing, I got confused because I was always so in my head until 6 or 7 years ago that even to be in my body was like, oh my God, this must be what it means. Because I really dropped in, and it keeps getting more and more so. But so I really took it literally, like being in the body, which is a step. But then somebody else pointed to it a few years ago, but I was like, oh wait, really? But you're just clarifying that yes, to be fully embodied is really to be one with everything, not and lose this. I mean, I still, maybe you always feel like you're in your body, but on a larger scale, you realize you are everything, and that's the full embodiment.
Yeah.
Is what is finally making sense. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah.